to help me. So Tim is one of the most famous Silicon Valley investors who now moved to Miami. And same story, he gets a call, WhatsApp update, and here he is from the US. Thank you, Tim, for joining us. Thank you so much. Are you mic'd up? No. No.
Handheld.
Handheld. Here, there, now you are. And Daniel to help me. Thank you so much. Tim, welcome.
It's an honor to be here. Good to see you, my friend.
And good to see you too. And you are also judging. So we have a startup competition tomorrow. Same thing, last minute, we need startups in there. Why? Because people are starting to build things in consciousness, in AI and Web3, of course. But meditation alone is $4 billion on the App Store, just for Apple, $4 billion. So there are consciousness apps, and I thought, well, if we are startups, we also need investors, because startups need people who believe in them and take the risk, not only to put them in metaverse, but also to write them checks. How do you see this? Let's start with, also Tim is on a spiritual path himself, one of the most conscious friend I have. Can you tell us a bit about your, both the VC part, but the investor part, but the consciousness? What is, like, what path are you on, your experiences you've been doing, and why you embody so well this ancient technology and new technology?
I think it's been like a long, dark night of the soul. And what I mean by that, you and I kind of came up in the valley together, and I remember those days, right, when we were about scaling things and big networking events, and I think we had similar paths. I'm like a walking Silicon Valley stereotype. Burning Man, 17 years ago, first foray into things like entheogens, probably more in a hedonistic setting at first, before then discovering, wait a minute, there is a greater why underneath this. And then having that shift my view of what values I operate with, taking those questions from the playa back into Sand Hill Road, Silicon Valley, and starting to wonder, are we doing things for the right reason? Back then, I remember being trained as a venture capitalist. The only thing ever we asked is, how big can it be?
Who's been to Burning Man here? Okay.
Oh boy. Okay, that's right. So it might be.
And Daniel too.
Context, but for many of us,
I went 18 times.
Right? Yeah, I've been like 14.
18 times.
I've been 14, and for many of us, it was the opening into that. It, was celebratory at first, but then it opened the doorway to more, I think, deeper questionings, right? And it's taken me so far now that I really question the system I came up in after 22 years of Silicon Valley venture capital, just worshiping at the church of growth at any cost. What were the things that we left behind or should have been asking? Never once in those 2 decades of venture capital did we ever sit around the table and ask, yes, this could be profitable, should it exist?
Was there a particular moment of insight for you, or was it just a gathering kind of like questioning?
I first made some success in the world of gaming, and I remember sitting in board meetings talking about engineering for engagement, and what we were really talking about is building for addiction. When we went to free-to-play models, it was similar to what happened with social media and advertisement. When your business is driven off in attention, the inevitable outcome, if you're fueled by capital that needs it to scale, is to drive maximum addiction of your users, sometimes counter to what's in their best interests. And it's really made me question a lot of things. We've always said the customer's always right. I'm not sure about that. If our fundamental base operating system is eat, don't get eaten, do anything to gain an edge to reproduce, and those fuel what drives most of our behaviors, and 99% of the time, I don't know that we have our own guardrails in place to monitor our impulses. And if you feed with Amazon style, anything all at once, instant, is that a good pairing? At what cost to, like you said, stakeholders of the whole system,
So what happened after that when you hit that crisis? Like, what was your process to sort of change your trajectory?
COVID really threw me for a loop, because when I really looked into it, I was like, wow, one root of this is industrial production of food and meat. And it really made me want to figure out, where the heck does my own food come from? My water, my energy, what's my footprint? Burning Man definitely taught me how much garbage I produce, in one day. And so I looked up my friend Stephen Brooks and wanted to get permaculture certified, because I just had this notion that, indigenous cultures, natural farming, people from before probably had a better balance with earth. And nature, I grew up in cities and suburbs. I had no connection to nature. And one thing I think about the spiritual and psychedelic journey, it puts you more in touch with your own healing, then puts you in touch with healing with community and others, and then really also starts to put you in touch with the overall system, including the whole ecosystem and Earth, from me to we to all. And I just realized I have a lot of work to do on myself in terms of learning. And Stephen, thank you. Ecoversity, quick plug, it's a great way to learn permaculture.
Was ayahuasca part of this process for you?
10 times. Oh, Grandma. Whew. She's been kind to me, and boy, she's like, anytime I've gone in with any spiritual ego, I'm going to ace this. She's like, whoosh. And so I come to her with great reverence every time, on hands and knees.
And so what kind of changes then did you make in your business strategies and practices after you went through this process?
I remember the day I went to my partners and said, guys, I'm not going to look at anything free and ad-sponsored anymore as a business model. I know this means we'll miss TikTok or whatever, but I just don't think it's good for humanity. And so it was actually taking a stand on which business models to back. Because technology, even money, AI, it's not inherently good or bad. It's the intention we bring to it. And a huge part of intention is the business model we bring to it. Because business models like the game rules, we just play by the game rules we're given. And rarely do we question that. So it was taking time to actually question that really opened up a can of worms and really caused me to reevaluate a whole bunch of things.
And what about, I guess, the big questioning for me has been around the scale of the ecological emergency that we're facing and whether even a reformed capitalism can handle what's coming in that, in the sort of capitalist business model, as you say, corporations have to scale, they have to create maximum short-term financial gain. How do we, have you thought more systemically about how we might address some of that?
Keeps me up at night every day because while I'm sitting here wanting to dream towards more conscious capitalism, can that be done? Audre Lorde's famous quote, you can't dismantle the master's house with the tools of the masters. Are we just shifting deck chairs and just performatively virtue signaling? Some of us are. It could be greenwashing with just wanting to be ESG focused, right? But I don't know. It could be that we need system collapse to really drive something through. I'm ready for that as well, and I accept that. That's sometimes what it takes.
Well, I was interested because Sam Altman recently said that maybe AI would break capitalism, and it was like, well, is that actually something that he wants? Is there an underlying kind of interest in Silicon Valley elites that maybe we do need to push it to the point of catastrophe in a way?
Sometimes, historically, humanity's track record hasn't been great in terms of system change. It usually takes a big collapse. We kind of sometimes need that 10 steps backwards to kind of keep moving. But AI could do that. When that gets rid of gatekeepers and maybe even IP holders, if generative AI gaming engines, and I could just go to it and say, I want a mashup of Assassin's Creed set in the John Wick universe, make it 3 hours long, put it at medium difficulty. Maybe that is when we are all creators, we all make the thing we want, and nobody necessarily sold that to me, except perhaps the cloud provider or the AI provider of it.
What is exciting you right now in terms of investments and entrepreneurship? Where are you focused in that part of your schema?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I fully went down the Web3 rabbit hole. I really bought the Kool-Aid. I made some, I lost a lot, but more importantly, the energetics of the first wave of Web3 were tough. I hate to say it, but the majority of people I ran into, charlatans, sometimes sociopaths, I just think the incentive risk was just too high. Yeah. When you could do an ICO and effectively get your IPO before you launched a product, why work on it? Right, so there was a lot of that happened. But what's exciting me now is a shift more towards people wanting to, do business for better and build things that are good for the world. It first was a nice to have. I think it's a must have now between climate tech and what's happening with AI, more inclusivity. We got to fix the systems. And if the next 200 banks collapse because of bank runs, we're going to have an entire rewrite of a big chunk of the banking sector we have to come up with too.
Yeah.
Do you still believe in crypto?
Oh, do you still believe in crypto at all?
Yes, I fully believe in the power of blockchain and as a governance and better incentive system. I just think we need the right talent, and this gets back to maybe the root of conscious and capital is the people practicing that capitalism. Do we have a more aligned why of what we're doing, rather than maximize profits in the quickest, shortest time? Yeah.
Right, so, looks like I'm back. Am I back? Yes. Do you believe it's going to be the announced revolution? Are you holding Bitcoin or Ethereum as part of your personal assets, or do you think it's not so interesting anymore?
No, I think I'm a Bitcoin ETH maximalist right now. I'm looking also for other sources as we potentially de-dollarize.
How big is this in your, don't answer if you're not comfortable, in your assets? How big is crypto in there? 5%, 10%, 50%, 100%?
Well, it went down.
That's a very intimate question.
I lost 80% of it last year, but
you lost 80% of last year?
Like we all did.
Yeah.
Entire space collapsed, but
except everything is perfect.
Hubris, yeah. But maybe it was perfect, exactly what was needed. It's definitely.
For a while, I was thinking of Loic every day because I knew he was like deeply invested in one of these things. And then he was in the jungle, and I knew he was
convinced
like,
you to.
Yeah, he convinced me to.
Right.
I went to the jungle 3 months offline.
Yeah.
Entirely offline. Like they took my phone. I could not talk to Magdalena, to my kids. Nobody.
Yeah.
Like nobody. 3 months.
It's
And I went in with crypto assets, and I thought about it before going in. And I was like, yeah, let's trust the universe.
Well, you were extremely excited about it. but
I'll finish that because I'm accepting everything that is.
Yeah.
And I end my dieta 3 months isolation, complete isolation, right? They were bringing me half a banana a day, basically. And I see the chief, and she said, "Chief, I'm going to connect to the internet." And they have a bad satellite that never works. And he says, it's going to be strong. Of course, he knows nothing about what's going on in the crypto market. So he's like, 3 months offline, it's going to be strong. You're ready. Nishiwaka Yawanawa from the Yawanawa village, my teacher. And I said, okay, I'm ready. He's like, you sure? Kiss my phone, connect. And first I talk to everybody, I'm alive. And then I go to this portfolio crypto. And I do the reload thing. It's like, it must be the satellite connection. And by the way, I'm full of dirt, half naked, my nails are dark, full of pain.
I think you were telling me that you were going to make 6,000 X or something.
Don't be mean. I accept anything that you said that was right. Anyway, and it was 0.000097. It was Luna UST, and then but then you don't know the end of the story. But that's your talk, though. But I had the rest, Bitcoin and Ethereum on FTX. FTX.
Oh yeah.
That is where my so I'm like, cool. Yeah, this is great. I told the chief. He has no idea, right? But I tell the chief. I said, Chief. That is strong. It might be even stronger than the dieta itself.
Right.
And he looks at me, he says, Calma. Everything that happens during this time happens for a reason. The more you progress spiritually, the harder the universe will send you, tests, thank you, to go through. And I was like, whoa. And I came back, whoa. So
it's medicine,
I feel,
right?
yeah. It's okay. Look at me now. I'm 23 years old, building a startup, raising from an investor, an angel. You put me on my back, wow, okay. Those who are in the PAUA community on WhatsApp, no. I've been a community manager again. It's fun.
It is.
Start all over again.
So let's get back to Tim a little bit.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, I just love to know more about, because it seems like you've really reached a very profound consciousness around the systemic, issues and the importance of a consciousness journey. Where do you go from here? You feel very light in a way. You're okay, maybe 200 banks will collapse, maybe the system will go down, but you feel like you really have your center. So how do you feel of how do you want to put your intelligence and your energy and your your wisdom going forward in a way? Where do you want to place it?
in the communities that we're in together often think about this, like Jenny Stefanati at Dent and others, and all day thinking about how do we do more regenerative models, regenerative economies. That's why I think permaculture as a set of design principles is so transformative for life itself, right? It's really made me think about money and all sorts of things differently. Money more like water or blood, which is meant to be circulated as opposed to accumulated in one place, right? So thinking of those kind of design principles, Stephen, you taught me all of these things, right?
Well, there have been efforts, like there's this guy, Bernard Lietaer, who tried to design a currency called the Terra that was a negative interest currency. So if you tried to hold on to it, it would lose value. So it would act more like blood in the body and just keep moving.
Right. Part of it, too, comes to our structures. We're on a quarterly cadence with our short-term markets. Yatsu had talked about shareholder capitalism. It's all tied up in just a few, older white guys around a board table. How do we shift to stakeholder capitalism, longer-termism? How do we have models that are not just profit maximizing? It might have to even get systemic if we have to redefine GDP, because it doesn't count externalities. And today, our entire economy is probably more externality than the hard accounted costs. Right, so we're kind of living in outdated systems.
Absolutely. What was what have been some alternatives to that you've looked into? I know there was like the gross happiness index from Bhutan. That was a popular one.
So, here's a great question. It's like, if regional banks collapse, what is a better system? Maybe it's credit unions. Maybe it's back to collaboratives. Maybe it's back to a mycelial network of nodes that are healthy at smaller scales, as opposed to mass centralization at the core. That is still the Web3 hymn book of decentralization, but maybe we need to see that on other levels. Even food production. You can get a lettuce grow and create like farm-to-table food in your patio, even in New York City. It is doable, so you don't need a farm to produce your own food.
You have a patio.
Or even in your living room, they have like the UV lamp attachment. So I'm just thinking about how can we be more resilient and self-sufficient, even at the micro scale, at the edges.
Yeah, I love that. I've seen different attempts. Like there was something called Window Farm, which was, I also have seen so many things that seem like the awesome things that should happen, and they just don't work for some reason because the capitalism just supports the short term. Like couch surfing was a great example. It was like, take something that could be a capitalist enterprise, but make it free so that people actually just want to share their homes with other people and so on.
So we need new funding mechanisms too. I represent the old venture capital model, and for a while we just assumed that's the only way to fund your company, but it's not. There's going to be more DAOs, crowdfunding, maybe slow capital funds, family offices, things like that, where it's not grow fast or die, because that energy, that venture capital that we apply onto companies isn't always the best match. We like to say we're rocket fuel, but not everything needs to be a rocket. A lot of rockets explode, not in a good way.
What's kind of your regular spiritual psychic practice right now? Like what are you interested in? Do you meditate? Do you contemplate?
Drink ayahuasca?
Cogitate?
There's that, when I get too out of whack.
What's that?
Plant medicines are really good when I get out of whack as a tuner. But, something I found in the Valley, sometimes we chase the molecules a bit too much, chasing the dragon, as we say. And I keep finding that the molecules are a doorway, but the actual medicine is the integration work every day. But we don't want to do that because it's the hard work, And I owe a lot of my spiritual practice wisdom to Nicole Bradford there. She turned me on to coaches like Joe Hudson, just did groundbreakers at her recommendation. Dr. Joe Dispenza was a particularly useful meditation method for me, just being such a rationalist stuck in my head. So just a combination of these modalities. And you know what I found? All the modalities are great. They kind of lead you to the same mountaintop. You just got to figure out the mixtape that works for you. You know what I mean? So it's not like one modality is better. It's just whatever resonates with you.
And how do you feel? As somebody maybe who was part of these exponential, projects that maybe had a negative effect or caused addictions, do you feel a personal sense of I want to say guilt or responsibility, or that you have to sort of try to unlock some kind of solution here?
I moved to Miami because I semi-retired and I needed a change from Silicon Valley after 22 years. And my karmic debt from making profit from a lot of these kind of older models is to now be more in service, to be more working in the impact space, to be on nonprofits, to figure out how to unwind and maybe do a big firmware upgrade to, frankly, the system I graduated from and benefited from. It's questioning the mouth, the hand. What is it? Questioning the hand that fed my mouth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's so exciting that you have that opportunity to do that.
It's also privilege. If I didn't have, the success from the old system, I'd still be scraping by trying to put points on the board, right? So there's this saying sometimes that like enlightenment is an old privileged person's game, and I don't want it to be that way. But sometimes it's that way in terms of just how financial resources get allocated.
Yeah, most people are just struggling to survive. They don't have, the energy and time for these, they're just dealing with trying to pay off student debts and all that stuff. Cool. What have you taken from today? Were you here for the whole day? Did you watch the?
I got to see a lot of the sessions. Thank you, Loic. You curated some wonderful speakers, and just the wisdom from the indigenous side, the plant side, the spirit side. I've always believed that they seem diametrically opposed, but if you go far enough down the rabbit hole of spirituality or science, they wrap around and meet at the other end. And I just really confirmed.
We had the Corgi Master ask a question to a French AI entrepreneur.
Right?
That was my favorite high point of the day so far. Yeah.
Very special.
I think we should do more of that. Actually.
For sure. And the questions you're asking, these deep philosophical questions around AI, they are the most, I think, ultimately even spiritual questions of all, right?
Yeah, it feels like it's important to at least raise those questions at the moment.
Yeah. I just want to end with this notion that really keeps me up at night. We have built tools that have God-level capability. We've literally designed the genie in the lamp. So how do we wield more God-level consciousness with it? You can now grant any wish you want. Forming that wish is so critical. It's just like when you shape your intention going into meditation or plant ceremony. It's the intention shaping that requires utter precision and finesse.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was great to
Tim, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Please come back. Please come back, Tim. Thank you. Thank you.